Hey gang, welcome to Week 4's FSA updates. We'll be bringing you news from around Fantasy Sports Alliance and the NFL. As you can see, we are in my mother's basement again this week. I promise this will be the last week that we are on the road. Starting next week, we will be back in Texas, hopefully in FSA Studios, where you'll be able to watch the show from there. So as we're wrapping up Week 4, let's talk about some of those NFL injuries that are affecting your FSA team. So the two biggest ones to mention are Carson Palmer and Cam Newton. Both of them are down with concussions right now. The word came out earlier tonight that Carson Palmer will not be starting tomorrow night for Thursday Night Football. Hasn't been any real word on Cam Newton yet. As of today's practices, the part that the media were allowed to watch, Cam was not out there. That doesn't mean that he didn't go out there after the practices had concluded for the media. So still iffy on whether he's going to play this week or not. And I believe they're Monday night against Tampa Bay. So he has an extra day for them to decide what's going on with that one. So the other ones to mention is Sammy Watkins went on the injury reserve this week with his foot, giving him more problems dating all the way back to surgery he had on it last year. Kevin White, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, is now out with a broken fibula. So apparently his ankle injury ended up hurting more than just the ankle and ended up working its way up to the leg and causing some issues. Chris Johnson, I don't know if this was news to anybody or not. This was the first I was hearing about it. He's going on the IR for sports hernia surgery, and not sure how long that's going to take him out for. I know I had hernia surgery a couple of years ago. I wasn't playing any contact sports at the time, but I know I was down and out for a little bit too. And the last injury to mention is Odell Beckham Jr. His feelings got hurt this past weekend. So the star wide receiver says he's not having fun anymore. But I don't really remember there being a fun clause in these professional football players' contracts anymore. So he says he was going to stop playing when it wasn't fun for him anymore. And I say, okay, so stop playing then. There's plenty of young kids that want to come right behind you, that want to get their chance in a league, and I bet you they play with both hands. And then the last thing to mention as we wrap up Week 4 going into Week 5, in case you haven't heard, Tom Brady's back this week for the New England Patriots. So let's get into some FSA news. Game of the week this week was going to be Today Was a Good Day versus Alpine Angels. Both those teams 3-0 playing against each other this week. One of them was going to remain 4-0. One was going to go 3-1. So Today Was a Good Day is going to remain 4-0. Alpine Angels moved to 3-1. Final score is 129-89. That means we have two unbeatable teams left in all of the alliance. The just mentioned Today Was a Good Day out of the FSA North region, and the Hip Hop Anonymous out of the FSA South region are both undefeated. And we also have two teams who still have not won a game yet. And everybody else is in between there somewhere. So real tight league, and we'll talk about the tightness of this league a little bit later on in the show. So margin of victory wins this past week in the North. The Demigods over the Hogs, 156-96 for a plus 60. In the Great Lakes regions, the Killers over the Cubs. Cubs were number one in the power rankings coming into this game. They lost to the Killers 145-90 for a plus 54. In the South, as you all know from some of the pictures we posted on Facebook and we've talked about on the show, we attended the wedding of general managers Ryan McNeil and Shelby McNeil, the Footlongs, and Show Me Your TDs. McNeil, Ryan's best man, Charles Davis, those two played against each other this week. The Falconian Assault for Charles and the Footlongs for Ryan. And I guess you could say it was the best man's gift to the groom. Best man wins the game 138-99 for a plus 39. So sorry about that, Ryan. I'm sure Charles isn't saying he's sorry. And then from the Southwest region, the Bison over the Black Knights, 170-97 for a plus 72. So every week we've been doing these margin of victories shows. We've been always talking about who is the biggest margin of victory. One other one worth mentioning this week was the slightest margin of victory, and it came out of the Great Lakes region, and it was the Detroit Muscle over the Pigskin Addiction. Muscle win that game by .08 points. So if you know our scoring system, that's by 2 yards passing. That was the difference in the score. So let's talk about the NFL games from last week. We were not wrong about last night's Thursday night game. We got the Bengals over the Dolphins correct. Tomorrow, as you can see, I'm wearing the hat for Thursday night game. We had Arizona over San Francisco until we got the news about Carson Palmer going down with his concussion. But we decided to go ahead and stay with it, especially since we already paid for the hat. And San Francisco looked terrible against Dallas this past week. If you did not hear, the Patriots did not go 4-0 without Tom Brady. They went 3-1. They lost this past week to the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills blanked them at home. It was the first time that they had been blanked at home, blanked at all, I believe, if I remember right, in 10 years, and the first time they were blanked at home since 1993, which is the same year that FSA started. So all of these hats that we've been wearing on the shows, we've been getting from Lids and Lids Locker Room. I bring that up because FSA is working on an affiliation program with Lids. What we're doing is, once we get all of the paperwork and we get approved for it, we will have a link on our website that will send you directly over to Lids. And there will be some, I hate to say it this way, but there will be a little bit of a kickback for FSA for the business that we get from our website over to Lids. I'm saying this because stomp, please go over to Lids and do some shopping for us. Anything that you buy from the store will give us a little bit of a commission. So once that paperwork comes through, we'll have that up on the website. So page 2 of this week's script. So in addition to the hat, I am wearing, if you saw at the start of the show and now, this airbrushed shirt of Walter the Wizard. My opinion, as redneckish or as white trash as you might think it is, I don't think airbrushing ever goes out of style. I've loved it ever since I was a little kid and used to go to bluegrass festivals, and I still like it as a grown adult. So this shirt was done by a store called Artistics, and it's in Sandusky, Ohio at the Sandusky Mall. And after we get done with the show tonight, we do our post little type-up thing that we do. I'm going to put their information up on the website in case you want to have anything done by them. You can go through them. Guy did an amazing job on this. Power rankings from this past week. So you probably already saw the graphic on the Facebook and the Instagram pages. Hip Hop Anonymous, 2 weeks ago were 1. Last week were number 2. Back to number 1 again this week. The Cubs, who were number 1 until they got beat by the Killers this week, went from 1 to 4. And then 2 new teams joined those 2 on there. The Bison from the Southwest fall in at the number 2 slot, and the Bacchanalias from the FSA North fall in at number 3. And coincidentally, Monica, the general manager of the Bacchanalias, is also our Appalachian regional manager there as well. Earlier in the show, we mentioned about how close the league is outside the 2 teams that are 4-0 and the other 2 teams that are 0-4, right there in the dead center. Sean Lapp, one of our advertising partners from Pigskin Addiction, sent me a text a couple weeks ago that I keep forgetting to mention on the show, saying he's pleasantly surprised at how tough the competition is in this league. So I wanted to show everybody or tell everybody just how tight this is. So what I did was I took the total points that each team has earned in the power rankings so far. So that those numbers that you get that ranked 40 through 1, and 40 through 1 based on those 3 criteria we talked about a couple weeks ago. Those total number of points I added up. And then what I did was each one of the teams that are inside the 4 regions that we've got, I tallied those total points up for each one of them because the power rankings are all teams compared against all teams, all 40 teams against all 40 teams. So what I did was I broke it down by region just to see if there was a region that was running away with the FSA this year. And what we found out was so I added each one of those regions up, the total points that they could get, and then I did a percentage of those based on the total of points that could be scored across the entire alliance right now. What we found out is the Southwest region holds 26% of the total power points that could be had across the whole alliance. The Great Lakes and the FSA South region hold 25%. And the FSA North hold 24%. So that's how tight it is. And if you haven't got a chance to look at it yet, there is a pie graph on the Instagram and the Facebook page. So you can go look at that and you can see it graphically. So we already talked about the games of the week for week 4. So we're going to talk about the game of the week for week 5. This week in the Great Lakes region, we've got a father-in-law, son-in-law head-to-head matchup between the Dogs and the Cubs. The Dogs are currently 1-3. That's the father-in-law, and the son-in-law Cubs are currently 3-1. So that's going to be our game of the week. We'll make sure we mention that at the top of the show next week. The advertising partners records, see where they're at so far for the year. So Pigskin Addiction and the 3 members that come from there, Chris and Luann Hadlick, and then the mentioned already Sean Lapp from Pigskin Addiction, and then Armando Gutierrez from the Recast. Those 4 people are combined 8-8 so far for the year. It would be terrible of me if I did not mention a few things, since they are advertising partners, to give them some shout outs for some things. So I wanted to make sure that if you haven't been over to Pigskin Addiction lately, to make sure you go over there, pigskinaddiction.com. Say it again, pigskinaddiction.com, and go over and say to Chris, Luann, and Sean, say Brian from FSA sent you. And then if you happen to be in the San Antonio region on 28 October, the Recast are going to be playing at the Bottom Bracket Social Club. So if you happen to be in that area of the country, make sure you get out and see our guys down there. I believe we're going to end the show this week right there. I see a couple people joined. Old childhood friend of mine, Brian Dobbs, is on, saying, just like you were back then, B, love you, brother. Hey, man, I'm in the basement even from back then. I'm in Xenia right now. I'm going to be here until Saturday night, Sunday morning. We're taking off to head back to Texas. So if you're in the area, you or Greg, give me a yell so we can get together and say hi to each other. And I see Neil joined. Got to give a shout out to Neil up there in the FSA North this past week. He put on a monster of a game, probably the most points he scored in 2 games combined since he's came in the league with us with 156 points. And his Philadelphia Eagles are now 3-0, one of 3 teams that are still left undefeated in the NFL. So I got to give shouts out to all of those people. So is there anybody else on right now? Do a little Q&A. Let me refresh the page over here and see if I see anything that I might have missed from you all. Winsadelphia, yeah, hey, if you didn't watch the show last week, Neil, I said that if he continues to play like this, he's without a doubt got my vote for Rookie of the Year. I'm sure a lot of people probably put it on Zeke right now. I still do not like Zeke. If you've been paying attention to anything that I've said about this guy from the beginning of the year, and even though with the post I put this week, I do not like Ezekiel Elliott. Probably has a lot to do with he came from Ohio State, and I am not an Ohio State fan. But yeah, Wentz has got my vote for Rookie of the Year right now. I just hope they can keep it going. I just dropped Kansas City's defense and picked up Philadelphia's defense, so probably not the best matchup of the week, but I'm hoping to be able to ride their coattails right now. So I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I'm still going to wear my Jets gear, but at least for right now, I'm pretty stoked about Philadelphia. All right, gang, well, that's going to end it for the week. I think we had enough of a lull there. People probably getting pretty bored. Check back with us again next week when we will be back in Texas, hopefully in the studio, and doing our show from there. If we don't end up in the FSA studio, we might be doing a remote from the Boats and Hose headquarters and Ryan Waldron. So either way, we will have Week 5 updates next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, just like always. So join us then. See y'all next week.